In this video, I'm going to share with you guys my prediction on what the best business model is going to be for 2024. Now, before we dive in, my name is Sumner Healy. I run a business called landinvestor.co. We teach folks how to build land investing businesses. Now, before we get into this, I've got one small thing to ask. It's totally free. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. All right, guys. Well, for some of the viewers here today, what I'm going to explain may just be repetition, but you still may get some new nuggets that you've never heard me talk about before. If you're totally brand new to this channel, you're going to absolutely love this video. Now, before we dive into it, let me tell you guys a short story. Okay, I've been building businesses since I was about 16 years old. I had a photography agency. I worked with realtors. I worked with contractors. I had a textbook arbitrage business. I had all these different businesses throughout my childhood. I even tried selling flashlights online at one point. I've really tried it all. And I've always been on a quest for what felt like the best business model. You see, all those businesses had pros, they had cons. And a lot of times, given a long enough time horizon, the cons started to outweigh the pros. You know, I'd go and get involved in a lot of these businesses. We'd have mild or modest success. And a year, 2, 3 years in, I just said, this isn't it, right? This isn't the vehicle that's going to take me to where I want to go. Now, ever since I was a young kid, I knew that it was in my DNA to be an entrepreneur. I was obsessed with building businesses, and I knew that I was going to take this skill set far. I knew my life was going to be built around building businesses. The trouble was I never had a vehicle that I felt like was on par with my level of ambition. But it wasn't until 2019 that all changed, and I stumbled into the wacky, wonderful world of flipping land. And yes, that very well might be the best business model of 2024, but let me explain exactly the pros and the cons to this business. And I think what you'll see here is that the pros far outweigh the cons, but I guarantee you there will be some things that you've never heard me speak about before. Now, if you're brand new to the idea of flipping land, buckle up. Because if you're just hearing about this, I guarantee you as we move forward into 2024, 2025, on and on and on, you are going to be hearing about this business model more and more, because frankly, there is nothing quite like it out there in the entire internet marketing, business building, business in a box space. There's nothing like this. If you're into Amazon FBA or marketing agencies, cold emailing agencies, short form TikTok agencies, wholesaling, fix and flip, I mean, if you've heard of any of those kind of classic generic businesses that you hear people talk about on YouTube, you're going to love this because it smokes all of those other business models. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about the pros and the cons. Now, if you guys want to see more content and diving into the specifics of how to build a land business, go over to the YouTube channel. I literally break it all down in granular detail. I've essentially just given the playbook away on our YouTube channel. So I'm going to make a quick pro-con list here. All right, pro number one. First pro is that there's little to almost no competition in the land space. Now, there's a multitude of reasons that have caused this. A, it's slightly complex. There are complexities to what we do. There's just a lack of good content out there. Ultimately, there's just a lack of awareness around how exciting this business model is. Anytime you can get into a new business on the ground floor, that typically bodes pretty well. You know, I was running Amazon FBA businesses way back in 2017. I can tell you wholeheartedly, those businesses were easier in 2017 than they are in 2023. You definitely get a leg up on the competition by being early, because frankly, a lot of these businesses start off as blue oceans. If you were running a social media agency back in 2013 and 14, you were in a league of your own. Nowadays, everyone and their mom runs an SMMA. So no competition, or little competition. You got guys like me in the business, so you got to watch out. Pro number two is what I call scale. You see, most businesses, they're kind of in this weird, like one side in, one side out. What I mean by that is some businesses work really well at a small scale, and you can't really get beyond them. You know, think about like a cleaning business, for example, right? I'm sure it works at a small scale and it's pretty easy to get to 0 to 1. But if you wanted to make that into a multinational franchise or something, it'd quickly become really, really difficult. There's two kinds of business models out there. There's what we call 0 to 1 businesses, right? Those are businesses that are really easy to go from 0 to $500,000, maybe $1 million a year in free cash flow. Okay, cool. 0 to 1. The problem with the 0 to 1s is you can never really get them beyond that, right? Rarely are you going to see those 0 to 1 businesses turn into 8-figure, 9-figure, 10-figure businesses. And on the flip side, we've got the 1 to 10 businesses. A 1 to 10 business is a business that's really hard to get off the ground. Okay. Think about Facebook. We're creating a social media platform. Extremely difficult to get any kind of momentum. But once you hit that critical mass, going from 10 million to a billion to 10 billion, 100 billion, it just compounds. It just gets really, really crazy. The land business is somewhere in between, okay? It's definitely more of a 0 to 1 business. It is relatively easy to build $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year kind of free cash flow business in land. is not that difficult. But land also has the ability to go beyond that. I won't bore you here with the specifics. It's not so much more about just doing more quantity if you want to scale a larger land business. It's usually more of a quality metric. So a lot of what we teach our students how to do is go buy deals. They buy at 25,000 to maybe $250,000. And we typically are doubling our money on those deals. But we even have a member right now that's working on a deal they're buying for 11 million and selling for 19 million. That's one deal, right? So there's kind of like a qualitative side of this business, right? Where we're going and flipping really small properties. Cool. That's a very easy 0 to 1 type business. But if we want to scale and turn this into an 8-figure or maybe even a 9-figure business, it's certainly possible. We just have to start focusing on different sub niches or sub strategies within the land business. So it's one of the few businesses that can really be both, right? I think what you're typically going to see is most people that get into this business, they're going to kind of run it like a 0 to 1 business, right? They're going to think about going from maybe $250,000 to $500,000 to maybe $1 million or $2 million a year. That's where most land investors hang out. But I want to say I certainly do believe it is possible to go beyond that. Now, full disclosure, I don't run an 8-figure land business, so I haven't done it before, but I've seen enough of these deals play out with our members and with colleagues that I do believe it's possible. Currently, we operate a business that's in the low 7-figure range. We are more on the 0 to 1 side, but I see the path to 1 to 10. Number 3 is what I call leverage. Now, I don't mean this in the typical sense, okay? The problem with most businesses is that it's either a service or a product, right? And when you have to kind of take a bit of a gamble and say, hey, does someone actually want this service? Or on the other side, does someone actually want this product, right? You are rolling the dice. And most businesses, they just don't have product market fit, right? That's usually where they go wrong. That, or they run out of money, they run out of funding. And so what I mean by leverage here is that we can actually go take an existing asset where people are raising their hands and say, hey, we desperately want this, we need this, and we just bring it to them. This is what I think is the easiest business model in the history of mankind, what we call arbitrage business models, right? Take advantage of something that's already in demand that we know people want. We don't have to roll the dice and think, boy, is someone gonna want this? We just find a way to buy it at a discount and bring it to market. Now, I was saying something, well, how the heck do you buy it at a discount? We have many, many YouTube videos that cover all of that, my friend. Go click below. So frankly, I've run a lot of different kinds of businesses, right? I've run businesses where I'm like, I'm going to invent something or roll the dice and see if people want this. I've also created businesses where I'm just leveraging an existing asset that we know has demand. If we're talking about the easiest path to sustainable cash flow, the arbitrage business is always going to be easier. Now, the arbitrage business has less of a defensible moat, okay? So it is more difficult to defend your business if you're just playing the arbitrage game. But if we're looking for the quickest path 0 to 1, leveraging something that's already in demand makes a lot of sense. And the cool thing about land is it's deeply entrenched into the psychology of the US. This is something that since the dawn of this country, owning land has been regarded as a status symbol. And while you might not feel that way yourself, there are still tens of thousands, 100,000, maybe even millions of people that still feel the same way. Owning land is the highest level of status. To them, it is an idea of security. It's an idea of pride. It's an idea of I've made it. For a lot of people, it's just achieving a dream, right? Owning land at one point in this country was a prerequisite to even being able to vote. It's still very much in the psychology of this country to want to own land. The other thing that I love about land is it's got a high ticket price, right? And again, that ticket price slides up and down. We've sold deals for $500. We've sold deals for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know folks have sold deals for millions of dollars. When I was running my textbook arbitrage business, we really had a ceiling on how expensive the books were that we could sell. At most, maybe they're a couple $100. With land, it really slides up and down. It's up to your discretion how big you want to go, right? And so when you can have an arbitrage business that isn't capped by price, that's pretty awesome. Next on my list of pros is freedom. Now, frankly, one of the reasons that I love building businesses is the autonomy, the freedom. I travel just about once every month. To some people, that might sound like a nightmare. To me, that is my dream. We are running our LIA event here in 2 weeks in Las Vegas. We got over 100 land investors coming to join us. And right after that event, I'm hopping on a plane and I'm going to Costa Rica for 2 weeks to go explore volcanoes and go explore the Nicoya Peninsula. To me, that's the dream. But even if that's not the dream, I think having the ability to choose, having autonomy and having freedom is something that we all desire. In the last 12 months, we've had hundreds of phone calls with land investors looking to join LIA. And the common theme that we hear again and again is, Sumner, we want to follow the blueprint so we can have freedom, so we can have autonomy in our life. In my opinion, this matters way more than just how much money you make. At the end of the day, it's about how do you make that money? And does that money create a prison or a castle for you? You see, a lot of businesses out there look like castles, but they're actually prisons. And what I mean by that is a lot of businesses do not allow freedom, even if you can make a boatload of money. I live in Las Vegas. Out here, there's tons of personal injury lawyers. They're everywhere. And I always think that's such an interesting business because the personal injury lawyers have to interface with their clients. Maybe they get 2 weeks a year of travel, but there's no autonomy. Now in the land business, because we are flipping land remotely, because our deals are all over the US and typically our team is dispersed, there's really nothing tying us down. As cheesy as it is, this is truly a backpack business if you want it. If you want to be a homebody and grind it out 12 hours a day, you can do that too. But thank goodness you got the autonomy to choose. Next is store of value. So when I was running my Amazon business, we were creating flashlights. So it was called a REM light. I have no idea why we decided to call it REM light. Funnily enough, we have a Leah member named Jesse, and him and I were the ones that actually worked on this together. So him and I were both working on this bizarre flashlight business. And here's the crazy thing. The business took a turn for the worse. We started having competition and people hijacking our listings, and we weren't getting sales. And before we knew it, we had a garage full of flashlights, hundreds of crappy little flashlights. I don't know about you, but I think flashlights are a horrendous store of value. The truth is, at some point in any business, you are going to get blindsided. You're going to get stuck with too much inventory. The economy is going to change. Something is going to happen. And if I have products or assets on the books, I want them to be a good store of value. At the end of the day, inflation adjusted, farmland has beat every single asset class in the last few decades. I'm cool with holding on to those. If S hits the F, I'm happy to hold on to these rural properties that we own, right? We're not going to own them forever, but in some cases, I would rather have my cash tied up in land than I would just sitting in the bank account, or worse, sitting in flashlights. And so frankly, the way I view business is I'm a risk assessor. Most people think entrepreneurs are risky. I say, no, we're not risky. We know how to underwrite risk. We take risks that might look risky to you, but frankly, we know how to deal with risk better than most people. I think it's one of the golden gifts we have as business builders. And so I'm always thinking about what's the worst case scenario. I'm always thinking about what's the risk, what's the downside, not so much the upside. And so I want to have a business where the inventory that we're moving is a real store of value. And land is certainly that. It's cheesy, but as they say, they're not making any more of it. And frankly, what we saw during COVID is when there was panic out there, when people were scared about what's going to come next, and people were scared about the lockdowns, folks flocked to owning land. I don't know about you, but it seems like every week the world's becoming a stranger and stranger and stranger place. And that's why I want to be holding on to land. Both as a store of value and in case things were to really shift radically, land will become much more in demand. And this last one is utility, which is very similar to store of value. Part of the reason that it is a good store of value is because it has real utility. Think about your gold brick, right? Also a good store of value. But does a piece of land, does a 40 acre in Colorado with the rivers and trees and streams and all that stuff have more utility than a gold brick? I'm going to say so. I'm going to say if the world really changed radically, I'm taking the 40 acre, you can keep your gold brick. The fact that these properties have real utility just differentiates them from almost every other classic store of value type asset. People talk about Bitcoin, people talk about gold, talk about silver. All those have utility and they are interesting, but land at the end of the day, there's nothing that compares with it. Because what do we need? We need food, we need shelter, we need water. Land typically provides that, right? You can drill a well. You can build a house, hopefully from the trees on the property. You can hunt on the property. You can grow food on the property. Frankly, I would take a 40 acre in the woods over a little single family in Cincinnati any day of the week. Not picking on you, Cincinnati. Look at this is just the beginning. There are a laundry list of pros, but frankly, I think these are some of the pros that most people haven't heard me talk about. But there are other pros like how we get a 10x ROAS for all of our marketing campaigns, how we're able to average 116% return on all of our deals, how our owner finance deals bring in over $30,000 a month in recurring revenue. I could go on and on and on and on because there are so many pros to this business. But gosh darn it, I'm a realist. Let's talk about the cons because there are some. Boom. That's a real con. No fulfillment. You're probably saying, Sumner, you're trying to pitch me on land. I'm not. I'm a realist, and I'm going to be honest with you. There's no fulfillment in this business, okay? This business, talking about land is utility. This business is pure utility. It is a way to change your financial situation. Guaranteed. If you listen to what we talk about here on the YouTube channel, if you go and join Leah, I can guarantee we will change your financial situation. But what we won't do is create fulfillment in your life. And that is a sad, hard truth. In fact, that is why almost 2 years ago, I was in a deep, dark depression caused by the fact that I was running a business that was successful, but not filling up my cup. And that was the catalyst that led to me creating Leah. Now, I am certainly not the next Gandhi or changing the world, but I feel like I am making my small little dent in my personal universe. And being able to talk about this stuff and teach this stuff and impart this wisdom among others who have created really successful 6- and 7-figure land businesses is impactful. It has filled up my cup to a way that the land business never could, even though the land business is probably a better business than me running a coaching business. But I needed a way to tip the karmic scales. So here's what you have to do. and this is just my general opinion, you need to either find fulfillment elsewhere in your life. Work can't be the area that creates fulfillment. Now, for me, the way I'm hardwired, work is my God. Work is my religion. Work is my relationship to the universe. I just can't change that. That's just how I'm hardwired. Some people, work is just a job, right? They work, then they get fulfillment with their family, through religion, through community. That's amazing. I applaud that. I'm not wired that way. I needed work to have some fulfillment attached to it. But that is one of the ways. The next ways is you can use this gift, this skill that you create, and use it as a way to give back. You could do what I do, right? Help coach people, help train people. That is a way to take this skill set, which has little fulfillment, and create fulfillment by imparting the knowledge on others. That was the path that I decided to choose. And the last path for fulfillment is that you can take the autonomy that you have and the liquidity or the wealth that you build in this business and use that in turn to give back. You can either give back your time, or you can give back the excess funds that you create in this business that give you the abundance and impart that back onto the world through charity work or through creating a foundation or whatever it is for you, right? When I was at my lowest in this business, I began actually delivering meals to old people during the week because I had all of this free time. My personal needs were met and I needed a way to feel good about myself. And I'm not saying that, and look, I'm just sharing my own psychology with you. This could be totally different for you, but this is what I found to be the biggest con with this business. Now, the truth is you'll pretty much find that in any arbitrage business, right? Because you're not really adding value to the world. You're more just equalizing prices and markets. And look, there's some value to that, but it's very, very minimal. The other thing, which could just be a me thing, is potentially you just remove some of the attachment to work being your religion, to work being the source of all fulfillment. That's a really hard thing for me to change how I'm wired, but there's definitely truth to that, and I've thought about that often. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's probably a heck of a lot different than you expected because I am a heck of a lot different than most people here on YouTube. It is my goal to give back and to impart the wisdom and the knowledge that I've learned from building my own land business and hundreds of our other students' land businesses and give that away for free on the internet, hopefully to create a little more fulfillment in my life. Much love, subscribe, peace.